thank you to the broader team at IAB for having us here today. Both Alicia and I are so incredibly honoured to be on stage and to be sharing with you all a piece of work that we are both incredibly proud of. Now that pride, speaking on behalf of Alicia, that pride for Alicia really comes from being part of the team at Nine that worked on the strategy and solution behind how this important Stop It at the Start, domestic violence, campaign messaging appeared across the Nine network. And for myself at Kantar, that pride comes from being part of the team at Kantar, working alongside Nine, working alongside and working alongside the Australian government to truly quantify the effect of this unique and bold activation. For Alicia and I, we were also really proud to be part of a much bigger discussion based on the measurement results as to how we drive greater effect in the future, given this is such an important issue. Now today, we have a lot of contents that we want to take you through, and to give a little bit of context as to how this session is going to go. In a moment, I'm going to hand you over to Alicia, who's going to share a little bit about the vision from the team at Nine. Today, you'll also hear from Alicia why measurement mattered in the context of this activation and what that partnership between Nine and Kantar really looks like. And we, of course, will be sharing with you all some of the results that we saw from the measurement study. Now, we fully appreciate that not every single person sitting in the room today is necessarily working on these big national societal change campaigns. However, we believe and we also really hope that you take away those broader learnings of success in terms of how your brands show up in market, how you actually deliver a message to consumers, and importantly, how you think about partnering with media to take into account that whole of network approach in a very unique and bold way. So that is our hope for all of you today. Now, with that all said, I'm going to hand you over to Alicia in a moment, who's going to share that vision with you all. But before we do that, we actually wanted to play a video for you all, which really highlights the importance of this issue and also gives some nice context behind how this activation appeared across the Nine network.
This is Ben Fordham, and today my colleagues and I across the radio network are stopping our shows at the start
to take a moment to discuss what is a very important issue, and that issue is violence against women.
It's important we understand the cycle of violence. Not all disrespect towards women results in violence.
But all violence against women starts with disrespectful behaviour.
Violent supportive attitude
is at epidemic proportions.
It's happening every day.
We need to see what they're seeing and hear what they hear.
Stop violence against women right at the start.
An important message from all of us here at the Nine Network. Violence against women is a national issue and one we must all work together to stop.
We all have an important role to play.
So according to the Personal Safety Survey, 1 in 4 women have experienced violence at the hands of an intimate partner since the age of 15, versus 1 in 14 men. The triggers for violent behaviour are evolving and changing. Technology is playing a critical role in shaping the attitudes of young people in Australia, and what they're exposed to is prompting a rise in disrespectful behaviour. As you heard in the earlier reel, not all disrespect towards women results in violence, but all violence against women starts with disrespect. It can be difficult to censor or moderate the content that young people are exposed to online. It's our job and our responsibility to better understand it so that we can help them navigate it and reject disrespect before it leads to violence. The Stop It at the Start campaign is a primary prevention campaign by the Australian government that's really designed to prevent gender-based violence in Australia. The most recent phase of the campaign is to understand the hidden trends of disrespect before they lead to violence. In terms of the primary audience that for this campaign, it's influencers of children aged 10 to 17 years. By influencers of children, I mean direct influencers, so parents, grandparents, aunts, uncles, but it extends more broadly to a community-based influence, and that includes people like teachers and sports coaches. By educating these influencers of young children on the systemic issue and the hidden trends of disrespect, we can make systemic change right at the start where it's most influential. At Nine, we are so fortunate to be the custodians of brands who have the reach and influence to inspire societal change. We play a really critical role in shaping the attitudes of Australians through the content that they watch, read, and listen to every single day. It isn't just our responsibility, it's our duty to use that for the greater good. So the Stop It at the Start campaign came to life across Nine in a multitude of ways, but it was strategically delivered through a blend of television, sport, audio, publishing, and talent-led activations that really were designed to create impact at heart. The channels were deployed strategically to work together for greater impact by understanding what the audience on the other end of the television screen or reading the paper really wanted to understand. And all of this was further synergistically aligned through the people and the platforms that they truly trust. And that's where we leveraged Nine Talent. The heart of the campaign was a network-led public service announcement that you can see play behind me. This used the many voices that Australians trust, the ones that they visit on their living rooms every single night. The PSA was placed across the Nine network in really high attention environments to create the most amount of impact in true partnership with the Australian government. You may have heard a snippet in the earlier reel about understanding the Stop It at the Start tactic. So as a network first initiative and something that we are really proud of, we pushed the envelope from an editorial perspective and physically stopped our content at the start across many different avenues to create that unmissable impact that I'm talking about. We leveraged the cultural influence of the NRL, and in particular the NRL Grand Final, as well as the US Open, to cut through in moments where you wouldn't quite expect it. We then leveraged the trust and influence of our metro mastheads and our talk radio stations that you heard in the reel to really create moments of impact in those lean-in moments. All of this was further strengthened, of course, with the faces and the voices that Australians trust through the talent. Continuing with the theme of impact, we delivered a full cover wrap of the Sydney Morning Herald and The Age, which stopped readers in their tracks before they started their ritualistic read of the paper. The tangible nature of print allowed for a really clever creative execution, where as you would open the first page of the paper, you were delivered with one half of the story. And that story was about James. He likes to joke around online by making comments about women on social media. They're just words, right? With no malicious intent. When the full cover wrap was removed, readers were revealed the rest of the story. That what they may not realise by making comments about women on social media is that it can cause real harm. Disrespect can start small, but it can lead to violence. The back page of the cover wrap was dedicated to understanding a little bit more about the campaign and providing readers with information and resources to find out and better understand the hidden trends of disrespect themselves. And last but not least, we leveraged the power of storytelling that is Nine's journalistic expertise, creating and distributing a range of long-form content in print and digital with the aim of unpacking and educating parents and influencers of young children about what the hidden trends of disrespect actually are. The longer form content was a very critical played a very strategic critical role in understanding what those resources are and then helping to provide a pathway through for people to find out more information or to get help themselves. Ultimately, the goal here was to create a synergistic campaign with impact that would help stop gender-based violence right at the start. And whilst what I've spoken about with all of the amazing things that we executed, and it showed the strategic media and the power of integrated media, what I think you're all probably most interested in being here today is the value in the outcomes that we delivered. At Nine, measuring the impacts of our campaigns is absolutely critical, not just to validate the success of those campaigns, but to refine future strategies, to optimise investment, and to ensure that every touch point continues to contribute to a lasting impact.
Thank you. So you've heard from Alicia the importance of measurement. You've also heard from Alicia what that bold and unique activation looked like. I'm now going to share with you all some of the results that we saw from that Kantar cross-media study. At an overall level, we saw a 4.6% impact across the core aims that we were testing for the Australian government. And what was really fantastic to see here was impact across all of the core aims that we were testing for. So building awareness of the Stop It at the Start movement, building awareness of the new and modern influences of disrespect, actually increasing that understanding around the harmful attitudes that are emerging based on those new and modern influences of disrespect. And also encouragingly, we started to move the dial on those influences of young children saying that they are going to access the right resources to really empower them to have those meaningful conversations with people in their life. Now, I appreciate that that is obviously a number on the screen, so let's put it into a little bit of context. We actually compared the impact of the Nine activation versus Kantar's cross-media database, so similar campaigns to this. And what we actually found was that the Nine activation was performing above what you typically see from that Kantar cross-media database. So 17% higher than what we typically see. And it is worth noting that that norm from Kantar was a very high benchmark in that the campaigns feeding into that normative database tend to be campaigns that have two things in addition to what we were seeing here. They tend to be campaigns with higher media investment levels, and they also tend to be campaigns with slightly higher reach levels. So the fact that we achieved that above normative impact to a high benchmark really highlights that there were a lot of successful elements in what Nine were doing to deliver this message in market. Now, through the Kantar research, we were able to identify what some of those drivers of effect really looked like. And over the next few slides, we're going to share with you all 4 of the key drivers of effect. So let's take a look at number 1. Now, the first one that we really identified was using talent to drive change. You heard from Alicia that they were really tapping into their portfolio of talent, sport personalities, Nine News personalities, as well as media personalities. And the use of personalities and talent in this instance really helped amplify the message far beyond the reach of a standard TVC. Now, this wasn't just about having visibility, it was actually about driving that connection, that trust, and that credibility. And the use of talent from Nine was really aiding in driving that effect in market. We actually asked influencers of young children to tell us, what do you think about the use of talent in the context of this campaign? And 3 in 4 agreed that the use of those personalities could have a positive impact in helping to stop disrespect at the start. Now, this was very much backed up in some of the open-ended responses that we had as part of the research. And we've pulled out one quote that really resonated with Alicia and I. I liked how they used strong Channel 9 TV personalities to promote the issue. It's very clear about the message and how you can fix the problem and where to get involved. So there's a really nice broader message for all of the brands or people working on brands in the room that's partnering with talent, whether that be for a cause such as this, a specific call to action, or just your overall campaign, can really help to amplify that message in market because you are using people that the everyday Australian person actually looks up to. So that was number 1. The second one was really around the power of the high impact activation. Now, hopefully all of you in the room today recognise how important creative quality is, but when you actually couple high creative quality with those high impact activation environments that we had here, so things like radio stunts, sport programming, premium programming, and from a digital and print point of view, those full page takeovers, you really unlock a whole new level of effectiveness. We actually tested a number of 9 produced creative assets that were very much surrounding those high impact environments. And those assets that were produced by 9 in those environments actually outperformed the Kantar creative norm on many of those creative metrics. So building branding to the Stop It at the Start movement, actually driving that engagement and grabbing that positive attention, and ultimately eliciting some type of response from influencers of young children. And again, there's a really nice learning in here about where you show up matters just as much as how you show up. And when you get the connection right between high creative quality and the actual context, you're really allowing your media investment to go as far as possible. Now, the third one that we identified was really around that whole of network media approach. So yes, we had fantastic creative, good use of talent, high impact activations, but what really amplified it all was that whole of network strategy. Now, what we actually found from a single network alone, quite strong reach. So 60% of all influencers of young children were exposed to this campaign across the 9 network. And because the team at 9 had planned all of the media channels across their network to work quite well together, we also saw strong crossover in reach. So 35% of those influencers of young children actually saw the campaign across 2 or more of the 9 media channels. And that really laid the foundation for those synergistic effects to occur. Now, all of this resulted in a couple of meaningful things happening. The first was we actually managed to drive solid reach into those segments of influencers. So whether that be parents, grandparents, sport coaches, and so on, there were some really interesting findings around certain 9 channels and properties over-indexing to certain groups of influencers. But the other thing that happened was impact across the full range of core aims that we were testing for the Australian government. On this slide, we've actually got an overview of the share of impact that came from different 9 media channels across the different KPIs that we were testing for. Quite a bit going on. But what you're seeing here in the grey colour is the results from the total TV activity. I'll have to remember this now because the legend's not on there. Light green is the TV sport integration activity. So from total TV, all of the TV activity, we saw really solid impact on those core aims for the Australian government. Publishing, which is in the blue colour, was working really well to drive effect on that resource-related KPI. So people saying that they're going to access the right resources to have that meaningful conversation. And from audio, which is in the dark green, we actually saw a solid impact when it came to building that awareness for the Stop It at the Start movement, in addition to helping to drive that resource-related KPI. Now, the point of all this is really just to say that it was the mix of that whole of network strategy that ultimately led to us seeing movement on all of the core aims that we were testing for. And then the final driver of effect, which is quite a nice build to that previous slide, is really around synergy and activating those channels for maximum impact. What we actually found was that of all impact achieved, 50% of that impact was coming from the 9 media channels working together to deliver that effect in market. And put another way, we actually risked losing 50% of all impact that we did achieve had we not had that whole of network activation and the channels designed to work together. Now, if anyone in the room has ever sat through a Kantar media effectiveness debrief, you will know that we bang on about synergistic effects, media multiplier effects, And this was a really great example where we saw many of the successful elements required to allow that to occur. So in this instance, fantastic reach overlap, giving people the opportunity to be exposed across the different 9 media channels, which we saw on the previous slide. That complementary flighting of different media channels in market at the same time. Consistent cues, so consistency of creative across the different media channels, the use of influencers, talent, and personalities, but also importantly, still ensuring that the content and the creative is very much customized to the content, the platform, and the environment. So those are the 4 drivers of effect that we were going to share today. From here, I'm going to hand you back to Alicia, who's going to do a bit of a wrap and share more broadly what this research means for people in the room.
Perfect. Thank you, Sharon. So what I think is pretty clear from what we've taken you through today is that by leaning into what makes your brand or product special and gives it that superpower, really can have a flow-on effect to the brand impact, the lasting impact, and the effectiveness. If we were to leave you with 5 things from today's presentation, I think the first one rang really clear in both what I had to say and also what Sharon had to say, which is ensuring that your talent choices stay true to your brand values. I think we chose in the campaign strategy talent that was true to the cause, and that is people who Australians trust. People who Australians choose to sit down on their couch and listen to every single evening. For brands, it's really important to maintain authenticity when it comes to the people and the personalities that you use. They must run true to your brand values, understand what your organisation looks like from the inside out, and really align with and agree with that. Maximising campaign impact by including high impact environments to boost engagement. As Sharon mentioned so eloquently, it was the stacker effect that really made this campaign so truly effective. So using high impact moments, stunt style executions, if I need to be careful saying that because we'll get briefed on it tomorrow and I'll go, oh no. But having the opportunity to boost engagement and to drive lasting impact is a really incredible way using high impact media channels. The next one is think big. Where possible, we know brands and marketers don't have ever flowing budgets to work with, but think bigger. Partner with media networks to plan holistically and lean on media networks who have an intimate understanding of their audience and their platforms. I think you heard it quite nicely earlier today with Susie talking about the intimate understanding that we have of our audience, and we welcome brands to come in and ask those questions to us. The power of synergy. Finding what supercharges impact from a channel perspective and then using creativity to keep things consistent can have a really, really important impact when it comes to that stacker effect of effectiveness. And last but not least, of course, we work with wonderful partners such as Kantar, but measurement does matter. And it's important for us as a media network to uncover those insights to help refine future strategies, to optimize investment, and to ensure that every touch point contributes to a lasting impact, not just now, but for the future. Thank you so much for your time.